Thank you, Matt. It is so wonderful to be back in Parry Sound-Muskoka today, in Huntsville in particular, because the momentum that is building for the Ontario Green Party across the province, but especially in Parry Sound-Muskoka, is exciting and inspiring. People here want new solutions to old problems. They want a new and better way of doing politics. And the Ontario Greens are offering that, providing the leadership to do politics differently, to do politics better, and to put people first. And today I'd like to announce our 7-point plan to support Parry Sound-Muskoka. And it begins by expanding healthcare capacity in this riding and across our province, by investing in the people who deliver the care that we need, by expanding primary health care options in this riding, especially through the expansion of nurse practitioner-led clinics, and revising the funding formula for rural hospitals to ensure that rural communities have the hospital capacity they need and deserve. Secondly, addressing the housing affordability crisis in a way that helps first-time homebuyers be on a level playing field with grants of up to $25,000 to add a secondary suite, a basement apartment, a laneway house, to provide additional rental supply to address the demand for more affordable rental spaces, and to create new revenue streams to help first-time homebuyers be able to afford the home they love in the community they love. Third is our Main Street plan to support local businesses in this riding by bringing in a Commercial Tenancies Act to protect small businesses, by expanding the Digital Main Street program to provide fulfillment opportunities for local businesses so they can compete on a more level playing field with the big box stores and the Amazons of the world. Never again should the provincial government close small businesses while leaving big box stores open. The Ontario Greens are committed to standing up and supporting the small businesses that are so vital to our local economies, and the vibrancy and vitalities of our main streets and our downtowns across Parry Sound-Muskoka. Fourth, affordable transit. By cutting transit fares in half and fully funding the reinstatement of the Ontario Northlander, including a $12 million annual operating subsidy, and expanding bus service between communities in this riding. We want to ensure that people who come to visit and spend money and support local businesses in Parry Sound-Muskoka have train service available to them. And we want to ensure that people traveling between communities in this riding have the bus service they need to be able to do it affordably and reliably. Fifth, lowering people's utility bills by maintaining electricity subsidies for rural, remote, and low-income households, and by investing in a home retrofit program to help people save money by saving energy and creating good green jobs right here in Parry Sound-Muskoka. Next, flood protection. Ensuring that we protect the nature that protects us. How many floods do we have to experience right here in Muskoka? Or how many, quote, once in a lifetime storms do we have to go through before we have a government that makes the investments in protecting the nature that protects us? And that's exactly what the Ontario Greens will do here in Parry Sound-Muskoka, because we know that the wealth, the prosperity, the jobs in this riding depend on the nature that makes us such a wonderful and beautiful place to live and to visit. And finally, a government that is committed to supporting rural education and youth mental health. The Ontario Greens are committed to revising the funding formula for public education to ensure that rural schools have the resources and supports needed, especially when it comes to serving children with special needs, ensuring that we have educational assistants, special education teachers, and the supports to keep rural schools open, and to ensure that young people have access to the mental health supports they need and deserve, with a fully funded, costed commitment to reducing wait times for youth mental health to less than 30 days. Right now, it is unacceptable that the average wait time for young people to access mental health services is 18 months, and sometimes as long as 2 years, especially after the last 2 years of the pandemic. Our young people deserve access to the care they need when they need it in the community they live. The Ontario Greens are offering new solutions to old problems here in Parry Sound-Muskoka. We're building on the momentum and the excitement on Matt Richter's campaign, especially coming out of the leaders' debate last week, where so many people in this riding had the first opportunity to see what Ontario Greens are offering, the new solutions to old problems, the new way of doing politics, a party focused on positive solutions to build our communities up, to create caring, connected, affordable, and climate-ready communities. And so I'm here and excited to be back on the campaign trail, supporting our fantastic candidates across the province and building on the fantastic and exciting momentum that Matt Richter has in Parry Sound-Muskoka, and the opportunity for the people of this riding to make history and elect Ontario's second Green MPP. I'm now available to take questions.
We can now take questions on the ground.
Hi, morning, Mike.
Morning.
Besides the fact that the Liberals don't have a candidate anymore in Parry Sound-Muskoka, why do you think your party and your candidate are so competitive here? What's the difference here from another riding?
Well, I think one thing people who live in Parry Sound-Muskoka and work here recognize that the foundation of so much of the wealth and the quality of life and the reason people want to live here and work here and visit here is the natural beauty of this place. And we need a government that's going to protect that and defend that and ensure that the nature that protects us is protected, and the nature that generates so much wealth and is the basis of quality of life here in Parry Sound-Muskoka is protected and defended. And that's exactly what the Ontario Greens are offering. And we know that Matt Richter in the 2018 election finished actually slightly better than I did in the 2014 election in Guelph. And we know what happened in Guelph in 2018, and we believe we're well positioned for that to happen in Parry Sound-Muskoka in 2022.
And then why do you think the climate crisis has not been a top election issue so far? And do you think that with the severe storms we experienced over the last weekend, it could become one? And if so, do you think it could give momentum to your party?
Well, I mean, first of all, the Ontario Greens are really the only party that's been talking about the climate emergency in this election campaign. I was pretty much the only leader to talk about the climate crisis in the leaders' debate until everyone was asked a direct question. The Ontario Greens are putting forward solutions to crush climate pollution, while at the same time addressing people's real concerns about the rising cost of living and ensuring that we set Ontario's economy up to be successful in the fastest growing emerging markets around the world, which is those in the new climate economy. 65 million jobs will be created in the next decade in low carbon industries, goods, and services. The question is, will Ontario lead that, generating new career and better job opportunities and prosperity for the province or not? And we need a government that puts forward the solutions the Ontario Greens are putting forward to set us up for success, to protect the nature that protects us, and to ensure that we address and do our part to address the climate crisis.
There are no more questions on the ground. We can go to Zoom now, please.
Thanks, Jess. We'll go to any Zoom questions now. If you have a question, please raise your hand via Zoom. First up, we have Colin DeMello. Colin, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Mike. I'm wondering what you guys are seeing in terms of some of the early voter turnout numbers. I know a lot of campaigns get that data from Elections Ontario. Are you seeing any kind of uptick in the early voter data, or are you able to get some of those Green supporters in Parry Sound-Muskoka to the polls? Are you seeing encouraging signs?
Absolutely, Colin. We're seeing encouraging signs in terms of the number of Green supporters who have already voted in advanced polls. We're also seeing very exciting and encouraging signs in our poll numbers. But I would say most importantly, we're seeing it in the number of volunteers who are coming out to knock on doors, put up signs, and make phone calls. Green campaigns are won through people-powered change. And the excitement, especially the number of volunteers coming out to support Matt Richter's campaign, has us very excited. And we're just going to continue to keep building on that momentum in the last week of this campaign.
Okay, thank you. And you know, taking a step back, you're obviously trying to grow your party beyond the single seat. What would it mean at large for the entire Green Party movement in Ontario if you were to double your seat count? How big of an improvement would that be, and what would it actually mean to growing the party beyond this election?
Well, it would be a huge opportunity to really grow the Green movement and to send a clear message that we need urgent climate action that addresses cost of living concerns and sets our economy up for success. We've seen in other provinces, I especially look to PEI, New Brunswick, and British Columbia, that electing that first Green and then electing the second Green has, in the case of PEI, led to the Greens being in official opposition now. And in British Columbia, 3 Green MLAs held the balance of power in a minority government. And so we have shown how effective we can be at Queen's Park with 1 Green MPP. We know we can be even more effective with 2 or 3 Green MPPs. And we want to use that influence to improve people's lives, address the housing affordability crisis, address the climate emergency, and ensure we make the investments we need to strengthen and expand healthcare capacity in the province, especially when it comes to delivering better mental health care for people.
Thanks, Colin. Anything else? Okay, we'll go on to the next question from Lorenda Redicop from CBC. Lorenda, go ahead.
Sure. Hi, Mike. In that race, you and Matt have both talked about it as essentially a 2-party race. So how do you win over PC voters?
Yeah, I think our plan, especially to support small businesses, has been getting a lot of positive feedback from voters in this riding. I mean, this riding relies on so many small businesses, and they appreciate the fact that the Ontario Greens consistently throughout the pandemic was standing up for small businesses and will continue to put forward new solutions to support small businesses. You know, another one I'd add to what I've already said this morning is a plan to liberate local beer, wine, and spirits, to allow for the opening of boutique BQA wine stores, craft beer stores, and artisan distillery outlets, because we know there's so many, especially when it comes to craft beer in this riding, that want to succeed and create jobs and bolster the economy here. Secondly, I think there are a number of voters, not just conservative voters, but I'd say voters across the political spectrum, who are just looking for honesty and authenticity in politics, less negativity and more positivity about how we build this province up and get things done for people rather than tear down the other parties. So, while the other three parties, throw negative ads at each other and at us, we're just putting forward new solutions to old problems and giving Ontarians an opportunity to vote for a better way of doing politics.
And as a follow-up, sort of a broad impact of COVID question, I see you're wearing a mask outside. What was that time home with COVID like? Do you feel like you have a lot of ground to make up in this campaign now?
You know what? We kept building on our momentum. I just want to give a shout out to our team. We had contingencies in place in case something like this happened. We had a full media studio set up in my living room in Guelph, and I was able just to continue to keep campaigning. We did media announcements every day. I did a number of virtual events, a lot of live Ask Mike Anything online events that had tremendous and significant engagement. And I also used it as an opportunity to make a lot of phone calls. I made a lot of phone calls over the last 6 or 7 days. And so we're just continuing to build on the campaign that we have. And I'm excited to be back in-person campaigning right now, obviously starting here in Parry Sound-Muskoka this morning. And I'll continue to, move forward in a cautious way because I always want to prioritize people's health and safety. Great. Well, I just want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. And I just want to say to the voters of Parry Sound-Muskoka, you can vote for a better future for this riding and for this province, and send a clear message that we can do politics better in Ontario by electing Matt Richter as your MPP for Parry Sound-Muskoka. Thank you, everyone, and have a fantastic day.